Commander Lillian Reed stared at the pulsing blue light on her control panel, a signal anomaly that shouldn't exist in this remote sector. The small exploration vessel Horizon hummed around her, its systems alert but calm in stark contrast to her racing heart. "Computer, analyze signal pattern again," she commanded, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "Analysis complete. Signal origin unknown. Pattern matches no known communication protocols in database," the computer replied in its flat, synthetic voice. Lillian frowned, tapping her finger against the console. Exploration missions to the outer rim were typically uneventful, cataloging uninhabited planets, collecting stellar data, and occasionally identifying resources for potential mining operations. Unknown signals weren't part of the routine. Send standard greeting package on all frequencies, she decided. Protocol dictated first contact procedures, even if this was likely just some space debris emitting random electromagnetic pulses. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Horizon lurched violently as if caught in a powerful current. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as the ship accelerated without engine power. "Computer. Full stop. Engage reverse thrusters." Lillian shouted, gripping her command chair. Unable to comply. External force detected. Navigation systems compromised. A brilliant light enveloped the view screen, forcing Lillian to shield her eyes. When it faded, the starfield had changed completely. The Horizon now drifted near a massive structure, a gleaming silver construction that resembled a flower with metallic petals unfurled around a central hub. "Computer, location?" Lillian whispered, awestruck by the impossible structure floating before her. "Unknown. Star patterns match no charted regions." Before she could issue another command, the ship moved again, drawn toward one of the structure's petals that opened like a hangar bay. Despite her best efforts, the Horizon was pulled inside, coming to rest in a cavernous chamber that sealed behind them. Atmospheric readings showed breathable air outside. After several failed communication attempts, Lillian donned her sidearm and exited the ship. The chamber was unlike anything human architecture could produce, flowing lines of metal that seemed almost liquid, pulsing with internal light. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth standard, giving her movements an effortless quality. "Hello?" she called out, voice echoing. "My name is Commander Lillian Reed of the Earth Exploration Force. I come in peace." Movement caught her eye, a figure emerged from a doorway she hadn't noticed before. It walked with fluid grace, tall and slender with iridescent skin that shifted between deep blue and violet. Its face bore features that were almost human-like in arrangement but with large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed with an inner light. 20 years, it spoke, its voice resonating with a musical quality. 20 years of solitude ends today. Lillian's hand instinctively moved toward her weapon, but she stopped herself. The being made no threatening moves, merely observing her with what seemed like wonder. "Who are you?" she asked. "Why did you bring me here?" "I am Kale, guardian of the sanctuary," the being replied, moving closer with careful steps. "Your signal was the first to reach us in 2 decades. I had almost lost hope." Lillian maintained her distance. "Lost hope for what?" "For contact. For an end to my isolation." Kale gestured around them. This place was built as a beacon, a waypoint for travelers. But something happened, our communication systems failed. I was left here, alone, with no way to call for assistance. "You've been alone for 20 years?" Lillian asked, compassion overriding caution. Kale's skin rippled with color, a sign of emotion, she guessed. "Yes. I was to be relieved after 1 cycle, 5 of your Earth years. When no one came." His voice trailed off. "How do you know about Earth? We have studied many worlds. Your transmission contained your origin data." Kale extended a 4-fingered hand, then pulled it back. I apologize for bringing you here without consent. Desperation guided my actions. Lillian studied the alien, sensing no deception in his manner. Can you send me back? Yes, Cale replied, his colors dimming slightly. But before you go, would you listen? There is something of grave importance, the reason this sanctuary exists. Something all sentient beings should know. The sincerity in his glowing eyes made Lillian pause. 20 years alone, waiting to deliver a message. Whatever it was, it must be significant. I'm listening, she said finally, making the decision that would forever alter the course of two civilizations. Cale led Lillian deeper into the structure, each step revealing new marvels of alien architecture. Corridors opened before them without visible doors, responding to Cale's presence. The walls pulsed with soft bioluminescence, eliminating the need for artificial lighting. This sanctuary was built by the combined efforts of 17 spacefaring civilizations, Cale explained as they walked. My people, the Varians, were chosen as custodians due to our longevity and aptitude for solitary existence. 17 civilizations? Lillian repeated, astonished. Humanity has never encountered intelligent alien life before now. Cale's skin rippled with hues of amber, amusement, perhaps. Your species has only recently ventured beyond your solar system. The galaxy is vast and ancient, Commander Reed. Some civilizations have traveled the stars for millions of years. They entered a spherical chamber where stars and nebulae projected around them, creating a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Lillian recognized the spiral arms of the Milky Way, but with regions marked in colors she couldn't interpret. This is the observatory, Cale said, raising his slender arms. The projection responded, zooming to focus on a region near the galactic core. 20 years ago, our sensors detected an anomaly, a wave of energy unlike anything recorded before. The projection showed a dark ripple moving outward from the center, consuming stars in its path. What am I looking at? Lillian asked, unease crawling up her spine. We call it the Void Cascade. It destroys everything it touches, planets, stars, even the fabric of spacetime itself. This sanctuary is one of 12 outposts built to warn the galaxy's inhabitants. Lillian's mind raced with implications. If this is real, why isolate the Guardians? Wouldn't communication be crucial? We weren't meant to be isolated, Cale replied, his colors shifting to a somber blue. Each sanctuary maintained constant contact with the others and with our home worlds. Until something severed those connections. He guided her to a console where damaged crystals sat in elaborate housings. Our quantum entanglement systems failed simultaneously. I've spent 2 decades attempting repairs with limited success. Lillian approached the alien technology cautiously. I'm an engineer by training. Maybe I can help. Your technology is different from ours, Cale said diplomatically. Different doesn't mean incompatible, Lillian countered, already examining the crystalline components. Basic principles of energy transmission would apply across technologies. Show me how it's supposed to function. For the next several hours, they worked side by side. Cale explained the fundamentals of their quantum communication system while Lillian applied her knowledge of human engineering, finding unexpected parallels. Your species approaches problems creatively, Cale observed as Lillian repurposed components from her own communicator. Varians seek perfection through established methods. We rarely improvise. Humans rarely have the luxury of perfect solutions, Lillian replied, carefully fusing connections. We make do with what we have. As they worked, Lillian learned more about Cale. Despite his alien physiology, she recognized his dedication, his loneliness, and his fear for the civilizations in the Void Cascade's path. There, she said finally, connecting the last crystal. Try it now. Cale activated the system. The crystals hummed with energy, glowing brighter until the entire chamber resonated with their power. For a moment, hope brightened his features, then darkness descended as the system overloaded and shut down. Another failure, Cale whispered, his skin dulling to a lifeless gray. 20 years of attempts. 20 years of failure. Lillian placed her hand near his, not touching, but offering presence. We've only just started working together. One setback doesn't mean defeat. The cascade continues advancing. Without warning, billions will perish. Then we find another way, Lillian insisted. My ship has communication systems. Different technology, but powerful. Could we adapt them? Cale's colors slowly brightened. Perhaps. But to properly calibrate a warning, would need to share precise knowledge of the threat. Knowledge that would be difficult to convey through words alone. What do you mean? My species can share memories, experiences, direct neural transfers. With your permission, I could show you everything I know about the cascade. You would understand as I understand. Lillian hesitated, weighing the risks against the stakes. Billions of lives across 17 civilizations, and Earth potentially among them. Would it work with a human mind? She asked. I believe so, Cale replied. But the experience would be intimate. We would share not just knowledge of the cascade, but glimpses of each other's lives, memories, emotions. The implications hung between them. To truly understand the threat, she would need to understand its witness. And he would glimpse her in return. Show me, Lillian decided, meeting his luminous eyes. Show me what you've been alone with for 20 years. The memory chamber resembled a meditation space, circular, with a shallow pool at its center filled with luminescent liquid. Above it, tendrils of metallic filaments hung from the ceiling like a technological weeping willow. This is a thought nexus, Cale explained, his voice softer in this sacred feeling space. My people use it for communal memory sharing during important decisions. Lillian approached the pool cautiously. How does it work? The liquid conducts neural patterns between participants. The filaments amplify and translate between different neurological structures. Cale's skin shifted to a calm turquoise. It will adapt to your human physiology. Will it hurt? Lillian asked, maintaining her commander's composure despite her apprehension. No pain, Cale assured her. But the intensity can be overwhelming. 20 years of isolation, the knowledge of the void cascade, it's much to process at once. Lillian took a deep breath. I'm ready. They sat across from each other at the pool's edge. Cale instructed her to place her hands palm down on the surface of the liquid, which felt cool and tingly against her skin, like carbonated water. He mirrored her position, their fingertips almost touching beneath the shimmering surface. Close your eyes, he said. Open your mind to the connection. Don't resist what comes. The filaments above descended slowly, gentle tendrils touching their temples with feather-like pressure. Lillian closed her eyes as instructed and felt an immediate shift in perception. It began as flashes, fragments of alien memories blending with her own. She saw Cale's homeworld, a planet of crystalline towers and violet skies where beings like him moved with graceful purpose. She felt his pride at being selected for the sanctuary mission, his solemn vow to protect the galaxy's civilizations. Then came the isolation. Years compressed into moments as she experienced his solitude, the initial patience giving way to concern, then desperate hope, and finally resignation. The endless days of maintaining systems, of searching the stars for signals, of talking aloud simply to hear a voice in the empty halls. 20 years of absolute aloneness crashed through her consciousness. Simultaneously, Cale experienced her memories, growing up on Earth, the loss of her parents in a shuttle accident, her determination to explore the stars despite that tragedy. Her years at the academy, her first command, the quiet moments of wonder when discovering new worlds. The exchange deepened, moving beyond personal histories to shared knowledge. The void cascade appeared in her mind, not as the simple projection she'd seen earlier, but as a multidimensional catastrophe she could now comprehend on an intuitive level. She understood its quantum mechanics, its inexorable advance, the mathematical certainty of its destructive path. When the connection finally faded, Lillian opened her eyes to find her cheeks wet with tears. Across from her, Kale's skin rippled with colors she now recognized as profound emotion, deep indigos of sorrow mingled with the bright gold of hope. "Now you understand," he said simply. Lillian nodded, unable to speak immediately as her mind processed the experience. She felt changed, carrying echoes of an alien consciousness alongside her own. "Earth is in its path," she finally said. "Not immediately, but eventually." "Yes. As are thousands of inhabited worlds." Lillian stood, steadying herself against the disorientation. "The connection we tried to repair, it wasn't just for communication, was it? It's part of something bigger." Kale rose with fluid grace. "Yes. When all sanctuaries are linked, they can generate a shield, a barrier that could redirect the cascade away from inhabited regions. That's why repairing the communication system is so critical," Lillian realized. "It's not just a warning system, it's part of the solution." "Precisely." Kale led her from the chamber. "But there's something else you should know, something I detected in your memories." "What is it?" "The technology on your ship, it's unlike anything my people developed. Your approach to quantum fields is unorthodox. It might be compatible with our systems in ways I hadn't considered." Hope surged through Lillian. "The experimental quantum relay?" "It was installed just before this mission, a prototype for long-range communication. Its fundamental approach might bypass our damaged systems entirely," Kale said, his pace quickening with excitement. "If we could integrate it with the sanctuary's amplifiers. We could potentially reach the other sanctuaries," Lillian finished. The shared consciousness had given her insights into his technology she wouldn't have grasped otherwise. They arrived at a vast chamber Lillian hadn't seen before, clearly the sanctuary's communication hub. Massive crystalline structures reached toward a transparent dome showing the stars beyond. "This is where we'll make our stand," Kale said, his voice gaining strength. "Together." Lillian looked at the alien being beside her, no longer seeing him as unfathomably foreign. Through their shared memories, she had glimpsed the person beneath the exotic appearance, his dedication, his courage during the long isolation, his fundamental decency. "I'll need to retrieve components from my ship," she said. "I'll prepare the integration protocols," Kale replied. Their eyes met, gold alien irises and human blue, sharing understanding that transcended words. The fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance, but in that moment, Lillian felt something else take root, a connection that had bridged 20 light-years and 20 years of solitude. The integration of human and alien technology proved more challenging than either had anticipated. For 3 days, Lillian and Kale worked tirelessly, dismantling the quantum relay from the horizon and connecting it to the sanctuary's amplification system. "The power requirements are immense," Lillian said, wiping sweat from her brow as she adjusted connections beneath a console. "My ship's generators were never designed for this kind of output." Kale monitored crystalline displays showing energy fluctuations. "The sanctuary can provide power, but the interface between our systems remains unstable. The frequencies don't align properly." Their shared memory experience had given them a unique advantage. Lillian now understood Varian technology on an intuitive level, while Kale grasped human engineering principles. Yet the fundamental differences between their civilizations' approaches created persistent obstacles. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Lillian suggested during their third unsuccessful attempt. "We're trying to make my technology speak your language, but maybe we should create something new, a hybrid system that uses principles from both." Kale's skin rippled with thoughtful blue patterns. "It would mean rebuilding significant portions of both systems." "We don't have time to keep failing," Lillian replied, determination hardening her voice. According to your calculations, the cascade will reach the Trellian system in less than a month. Millions of lives, Kale. The alien nodded, his luminous eyes reflecting the same resolve. Very well. Let's begin again. They worked through what would have been night if the sanctuary acknowledged such distinctions, crafting a unique interface that merged quantum entanglement principles with human subspace communication methods. As they worked, their movements fell into a natural rhythm, anticipating each other's needs, building on each other's ideas. "Hand me the phase coupler," Lillian would say, and Kale would already be reaching for it. "The harmonic resonance is fluctuating," Kale would note, and Lillian would adjust parameters before he finished speaking. Through shared breaks and meals, their personal connection deepened as well. Lillian told stories of Earth, its oceans and forests, its diverse cultures and history. Kale shared tales of his homeworld, of ceremonies beneath twin moons and cities that sang with crystalline harmonies at dawn. "Do you miss it?" Lillian asked during a rare moment of rest. "Your home?" Kale's skin dimmed slightly. "More than I can express. Yet duty required sacrifice." 20 years is more than duty should ask of anyone, Lillian said softly. "What of you? Do you not sacrifice as well? Family, permanence, safety, all traded for the stars." Lillian smiled wistfully. "The difference is choice. I chose this life. You were abandoned to yours." "Not abandoned," Kale corrected. "Something deliberate severed our communications. I fear sabotage." This revelation hung between them as they returned to work, adding new urgency to their efforts. If some force had intentionally isolated the sanctuaries, their warning might face active opposition. On the fourth day, they completed the hybrid system, a bizarre collection of crystalline structures interfaced with human circuitry, all connected to the massive amplifiers that rose toward the dome's ceiling. "System synchronized," Kale announced, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Power levels stable." Lillian monitored her ship's components. "Quantum field established. We're ready for activation." They exchanged a look, hope tempered by the knowledge that failure meant billions of lives lost to the approaching void cascade. "Together," Kale said, extending his four-fingered hand. Lillian placed her five-fingered one beside it on the activation panel. The chamber filled with humming energy as the hybrid system powered up. Lights cascaded through crystalline structures, and the metal components from the horizon glowed with heat. The dome above them seemed to waver as space itself bent around the immense energies they channeled. "Connection establishing," Kale reported, his voice tight with concentration. "I'm detecting quantum signatures, 3, 5, 8 sanctuaries responding." Excitement surged through Lillian, but she maintained focus on the power levels. "Stability at 82%, holding, transmission beginning." The warning message, containing data about the void cascade, its projected path, and potential defensive measures, streamed outward through their jury-rigged system. The knowledge Lillian and Kale shared through their neural connection formed the core of the transmission, providing contexts that mere data could not convey. For 17 agonizing minutes, they maintained the connection as warning signals reached outward to populated systems across the galaxy. Then, gradually, responses began returning, confirmation signals from other sanctuaries, acknowledgments from defense fleets, promises of evacuation preparations. "It's working," Lillian whispered, hardly daring to believe it. As the final transmissions completed, Kale's colors brightened to a jubilant gold. "We've done it. The Alliance will reactivate the barrier network. Billions will be saved." The moment of triumph was cut short as alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. The hybrid system sparked violently, components overheating as power surged uncontrollably through the connections. "Power spike!" Lillian shouted, diving for the emergency shutdown. "The system can't handle the feedback." Kale joined her, their hands working in tandem to disengage connections before catastrophic failure. As the last circuit broke, a massive energy discharge threw them both backward. When Lillian regained consciousness moments later, the communication system was a smoldering ruin. Cale lay nearby, his normally luminescent skin dimmed to a worrying gray. Cale! She crawled to his side, relief washing through her as his eyes flickered open. Did we succeed? He asked weakly. Yes, she assured him, helping him sit up. The warning was sent. Confirmations received. You fulfilled your mission. His colors slowly returned, brightening with understanding. After 20 years of isolation, his duty was complete. What happens now? Lillian asked, surveying the damaged chamber. Cale's gaze met hers, uncertainty and possibility mingling in his alien features. I don't know. For the first time in 20 years, I have no directive. The realization hung between them, a moment of completed purpose giving way to an unwritten future. The damaged communication hub smoldered around them, the acrid scent of burnt components filling the air. Despite the destruction, a sense of accomplishment lingered. Their warning had reached its destinations. Billions of lives across 17 civilizations now had a fighting chance against the Void Cascade. The Sanctuary's primary systems are still operational, Cale said as they assessed the damage. His movements were more deliberate now, conserving energy as his body recovered from the power surge. The auxiliary generators can maintain life support and basic functions indefinitely. Lillian ran her hand along the scorched remains of her ship's quantum relay. The Horizon's communication systems are fried, but the engines should still work. I can return to Earth, bring back a proper diplomatic team. A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken implications. You could stay, Cale said finally, his skin rippling with tentative patterns of hope and uncertainty. Help me restore the Sanctuary. Your insights have proven invaluable. Lillian smiled gently. Or you could come with me. After 20 years, don't you want to see something beyond these walls? The question hung in the air, profound in its simplicity. Cale moved to a viewing port, gazing at the stars beyond, stars he had observed for 2 decades but never approached. My duty, he began. Is fulfilled, Lillian finished. You sent the warning. The other sanctuaries are responding. What happens next is your choice. Choice. The concept seemed to ripple through Cale's being, his skin shifting through colors Lillian now recognized as deep contemplation. In 20 years, I never considered. His voice trailed off. The sanctuary was my purpose, my entire existence. Lillian joined him at the viewport. Purpose can change. Evolve. What would I do on Earth? Cale asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. I would be the first of my kind to visit your world. An ambassador, Lillian suggested. A bridge between our civilizations. With the Void Cascade approaching, humanity needs to know we're not alone in facing it. Cale's colors shifted to brighter hues. I could help prepare your people. The knowledge I carry could accelerate your defensive capabilities by centuries. And in return, you'd finally be free of isolation, Lillian added. Though I can't promise Earth will feel like home. Home, Cale repeated, the word resonating with emotion. In our shared memories, I saw your concept of home. It's not just a place for humans, is it? It's about connection. Lillian nodded. The strongest form of connection. 3 days later, the Horizon hovered at the edge of the Sanctuary's docking bay, repaired and ready for departure. Inside, Lillian made final navigation calculations while Cale stood awkwardly in the co-pilot's chair, still adjusting to the cramped confines of human spacecraft. The ship's life support is calibrated to support your physiology, Lillian assured him. And I've plotted a course that should get us back to Earth space in about 2 weeks. Cale touched the console with reverent fingers. 2 weeks together in this small vessel. After 20 years alone in a vast sanctuary, the contrast is poetic. Lillian laughed. If poetry includes recycled air and emergency rations. All journeys worth taking involve some discomfort, Cale replied, his newfound philosophical attitude a surprising development since their decision. As the Horizon prepared to depart, Cale initiated the sanctuary's automated maintenance protocols. The structure would continue its silent vigil, monitoring the void cascade and relaying data to the now-connected network of outposts. Are you certain about this? Lillian asked as the docking bay doors opened to reveal open space. It's not too late to change your mind. Cale's skin glowed with resolved purpose. 20 years ago, I was sent here to protect civilization from an existential threat. That mission continues, just in a different form. His luminous eyes met hers. Besides, loneliness ends today. Truly ends. The Horizon glided from the sanctuary, engines engaging as they set course for Earth. As the massive structure receded behind them, its silver petals gleaming in distant starlight, Lillian felt a profound shift in her understanding of exploration. She had ventured into space seeking new worlds, new phenomena, never expecting to find connection with a being so different yet so fundamentally similar. What will your people think of me? Cale asked as they accelerated to cruising speed, the stars stretching around them. They'll be shocked, amazed, probably a little afraid, Lillian admitted. But they'll learn, adapt. Humans are good at that. As are Varians, Cale replied. Though perhaps I've had more practice at adaptation than most of my kind. They fell into comfortable silence, watching the starfield together. Two beings from distant worlds, united by circumstance and choice. Their shared memories had created an understanding between them that transcended ordinary relationships, each carrying echoes of the other's experiences, perspectives, joys, and sorrows. In all my calculations about potential first contact scenarios, Cale said softly, I never predicted this outcome. What outcome is that? Lillian asked. Cale's skin shimmered with colors she now recognized as contentment mixed with anticipation, a combination he hadn't displayed during their entire time at the sanctuary. Hope, he said simply. Not just for survival against the void cascade, but for something more. Something new. Lillian smiled, understanding perfectly what he meant. After 20 years of isolation and duty, Cale had found not just freedom but purpose. And she, after years of solitary exploration, had found the ultimate connection, a bridge between worlds. The Horizon accelerated toward Earth, carrying with it the beginnings of a new alliance, a warning of cosmic danger, and two beings who had crossed the boundaries of species and stars to discover that even in the vast emptiness of space, loneliness need not be inevitable. As they journeyed together toward an uncertain future, one thing remained clear: whatever challenges awaited on Earth and beyond, they would face them as they had faced the broken communication system, together, combining their strengths, building something entirely new from what each brought to the stars. 20 years of loneliness, Cale murmured, watching Earth's sun appear as a distant point of light on their navigation display. Ends today, Lillian finished, reaching out to rest her hand near his, different in form yet united in purpose as they crossed the stars toward home.